In this presentation, we're going to review some of the things that you should be doing prior to starting your online class. As is the case with on-campus classes, certain preparations should be made prior to the start of the term. So here what we're going to do is we're going to go over some of the basics that you should do prior to beginning the class. There are a few things that you can do for an online class before the term actually begins. One task that you should attempt to do is to try and get a copy of the syllabus. Very often instructors will put the syllabi up online prior to the beginning of the term. This provides a couple of advantages for you. First of all, you'll be able to evaluate to some extent the requirements of the class and actually decide whether or not you're going to be able to put in the necessary time that's required to succeed in the course. You can also find out information about the textbook and other requirements prior to the beginning of the term. To find the syllabus, the best thing that you should probably do is go to the college website. Very often there are links to online classes, and often you can find information about the professors, and they often will include syllabi in their descriptions. Sometimes faculty put up their own faculty websites, which you can also find from the college website, and very often they will have links to the syllabus. At the very least, you can even email the instructor, and very often their emails are found in the class schedules or from the college website, and ask the professor if he or she has developed a syllabus yet and whether or not the syllabus will be available. Another thing that you can do, assuming that you get the syllabus, is that you can buy the textbook in advance. Even if you don't have the syllabus, however, you can go to the college bookstore to see what books are assigned for that particular class, or it might be possible for you to do this online. So you should have the textbook to start with. Don't just assume that the class is going to start and then you'll have enough time to get the textbook. Very often, online classes are shorter term classes, which might only be for 8 weeks or so. That means if you wait until the first day of class to try and find the book, and then you decide that you want to purchase the book through an online retailer, you might miss a week or so of the class without the textbook. So you need to be prepared in advance. Just as you would with an on-campus class, you should get started in your preparations prior to the beginning of an online class. Here's where we're going to spend the majority of the time for this presentation, discussing what you should do when the term starts. The first thing that you should do when the term starts is to log on to the class website. What you will probably need to do is go to the college website and find the appropriate links to get you onto the course management system. If you have trouble, immediately contact the technical support or the instructor directly via telephone or via email. This is something that is crucial to your success in the course. Do not be fooled into thinking that just because this is an online course, you can do your coursework at any time, be it a week later or 2 weeks later. Sometimes instructors will drop students who have not logged on to the course within a reasonable period of time. So, the first thing that you need to do, the first day of class, is log on to the course management system. Now, when you do log on, don't be overwhelmed. Sometimes it's a little scary for students logging on to an online course because there's all kinds of information that's presented in front of you all at once. This typically doesn't happen in on-campus classes. Typically what will happen with an on-campus class is a professor will give you the syllabus and go over the syllabus in the first day of class and clear up any questions that students might have. With online classes, however, things are a little bit different. There's a lot of information that you might be presented with all at once. Again, slow down, take your time, don't get overwhelmed. It can be a little overwhelming, but after just a little bit of time, you will find that things make perfectly good sense. Remember, you need to put in the appropriate amount of time to learn about the basics of the requirements of the class. When you're taking a class on campus, you might spend a half hour or even longer going over the various details of the grading scheme in the class. You should spend appropriate levels of time in online classes as well. This is not simply logging onto a website and knowing exactly what you need to do immediately. So again, take your time, don't panic, do a little bit at a time, and things will work out fine. If you have not already done so, get the syllabus immediately and read through it as thoroughly as possible. Remember that instructors cannot provide oral instructions as to what's required for the course. Everything needs to be written down and explained to you in that kind of format. So you need to take the time to read through the syllabus very, very thoroughly. And very often instructors have much more detailed syllabi for online classes because they need to provide elaborate instructions as to what needs to happen. So read through that as thoroughly as possible. Then, if you have any questions, ask the instructor. Do so immediately. Don't wait until an assignment is due or there is some ambiguity that pops up. Ask any questions that you have immediately so that they can be cleared up. The next thing that you should do is you should make yourself familiar with the website. Even if you're using a course management system that you might be somewhat familiar with, each instructor has his or her own particular way of setting up a course. So what you should do is go through the various elements of the website and play around, explore, find out what each link goes to and how everything works in the course. And again, if you have questions, this would be a good time to ask. If you wait until much later in the course, you might have some problems. You might experience some technical difficulties. For instance, there's a link that's not quite working. Maybe it's a problem on your end, or maybe it's a problem on the instructor's end. If you go through the website from the very beginning, you'll be able to identify those problems and ask the instructor if the problem can be solved relatively quickly. You'll also be able to identify whether or not there are any software issues that need to be resolved prior to you getting through the material in the course. So the point of this here is that you need to put in the time initially learning about the very basics of the course, how things are set up, and how you're going to navigate through the site. And you need to read the syllabus to do this and get familiar with the website. A very common occurrence is for a student to log on, look at the course website, see a rather lengthy syllabus, and then say, wow, this is too much for me. Really, the problem is not that it's too much for the student, it's that the student has not taken the necessary time to devote to learning about the website itself. If you do a little bit at a time, what you will find is that things are pretty simple once you go through the basics. Before concluding this particular presentation, it would be worthwhile to spend a few moments talking about some contingency plans that you should develop. Imagine if you were taking an on-campus class and you wake up in the morning only to find that your car won't start and you won't be able to make it to campus on time in order to take the test. What would you do? Well, you have several options. You can have a family member drive you, perhaps a friend can pick you up, or worst case scenario, maybe you will contact the instructor and explain the situation. You have backup plans. The same should occur for online courses. These can prove to be even more challenging because of the technical requirements that are involved with online education. Sometimes you can run into technical difficulties. So what kinds of things can you do? Well, first of all, you should have the ability to access more than one computer. If you're relying solely on your computer at home, for example, and the internet connection goes out or your computer has a technical difficulty, you need to gain access to another computer. Fortunately, you do have a lot of options. These days, pretty much everybody has a computer, so you can make arrangements to go over to a friend's house or a relative's house. Very often you can get access to the internet via some public buildings such as libraries, or there are even things like internet cafes where you might be able to gain access to the internet as well. Also, most colleges have computer facilities that students can use. So the point is that you should have some backup plan when it comes to being able to access the internet via a computer. Another good idea is to have a secondary email account. You might want one that is specifically for your schoolwork. This is helpful if for some reason the internet service provider that is providing the mail service all of a sudden goes down and things aren't working so well. That will allow you to contact perhaps other students in the class or contact the instructor. Now, one very important thing to do is to have the instructor and technical support contact information somewhere other than on your computer. If you print up the syllabus, then you should have the contact information right in front of you, or write it down somewhere. That way, if there is a problem, you can contact the instructor, and the instructor will know that there was some difficulty that occurred. So, just like on-campus courses, you need to prepare for online courses as well. In this presentation, you have learned that there are several things that you should do before the beginning of class and once the class starts. Again, the key is to put in the necessary time so that you put yourself in the best position possible to succeed in your online learning experience.